I'm not changing the backgrounds. He really wants me to change the backgrounds. They're not gonna get changed. Hi Marco, how are you? Hi Matanza. I need your guys' opinions because I'm trying to make this map layout. I think this is a good like start. Generally, it has like forests and farms and things like that. I'm wondering though if this is a good look for how the farms should work. Because this is basically just a painted texture that I can do, like this. And then I surround it with little hedges, like these, and kind of encase them. Without the hedges, it looks like this, which is a little weird. But I'm wondering if these like roll out the right way, or if they should look any different. I don't know. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to do the farms. This area I just improvised. Because I'm also trying to think like, I'm trying to make everything historically accurate. But I'm also just trying to make stuff look pretty. I'm like, yeah, it would be nice to put a little tree over here, have a little house, and maybe this person has some trees leading up to their property. Um, so yeah. Anyways, I can't. I've been given suggestions to do this differently, like doing ditches and stuff. I don't really have those options. I just have the tools that I can work with here, and that just doesn't include other sorts of things. I could do some of them like with stone fences, but that's more specific to certain regions. Whereas the hedges, you can kind of picture this anywhere because it just looks like bushes. Apparently, it's more English to do it that way. But either way, it looks somewhat neutral to me at least. I think if I use like stone fences, I think of like Wales or like Northern England or something. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I just want like rolling farms that kind of fill up. Otherwise, this is all just grass, you know. The other option I could do instead of these, but I don't think these look bad necessarily. But the other option could be like these. So I'll make like an example first. I think what I'll do is try and get a good selection of these farms and place a whole bunch of them down. And let's just like make a little farm layout and just see what we can kind of come up with here. It's like Tetris. You just have to find where you want to fit stuff. I think this little one is too small. It's more like a garden plot, I feel. This little square one's too small as well. Yeah, it needs to be way bigger than that. This little side one's okay. I almost feel like it's a little small as it is. I'll get rid of that too. Let's just stick with these. And the only difficulty is that these all need to get filled in with actual crops. What suggestions would you like to see in this stage of development? Honestly, I really don't need any suggestions for anything. I just need to kind of finish up what we've been working on. In terms of like giving feedback on this, I guess, okay, if I were to answer that question more directly, I would say the only suggestions would be like if I'm doing something stylistically like this and you're like, hey, it would look better. Like, for example, I'm going to fill these out with crops. And then if you guys give an opinion on would this look better to have around the map versus this, which style looks better, like that's a good suggestion. If it's a suggestion like, hey, I don't like the way the trees look, they should all be redone in a different style, or they should all look differently, that's just not something that I would have the time to go around and fix all of that. So, yeah. Okay, let's see if we can... So I can kind of lay these crops out. The only difficulty is like knowing which sizes fit which ones. So I think I did all these. Then I have these kind of square ones. And I'm going to let it be random. Any more squares? I think I got all the square ones. Let's try these. I'm genuinely curious how the generated farms, the right one, looks different with every patch. Do they grow different crops in patches or something? What do you mean by that? It looks different with every patch. I'm not sure what you mean. Are you saying like in real life how they would do it, or how the texture would work in game? I'm just not sure what you mean. How the color works. In what context exactly? Like how the... Are you saying why are they different colors? Yeah, these would be different crops that they're growing. And typically you do that not only just to grow variety of food, but also certain crops grow differently at different speeds and under different conditions. And you would have like crop rotation where some fields are growing while others are being harvested. Otherwise, if everything's ready at the same time, it's like a panic to try to get everything, and it's all going to go bad. So you have to like space it out so it all can be collected at different times. So you have like a continuous rolling source of food. That's kind of the idea. But yeah, I don't really know what to do with the farms right now. I feel like it's hard to make the maps look full because it's not 3D. So look how flat, all of this is. In Fire Maneuver, I would have hills, or like other 3D games, just like the way that the land bends up and elevation is different, casts shadows and stretches, and it makes the land have more variety. Now I can use a texture brush and texture out this land. That's fine. I can put bushes. I can make it look more like varied, but it's just harder naturally to do. Anyways, this would be one way of doing farms around the map, like this, like having a bunch of these, right? But I do feel like this looks more natural. It's easier to do as well. Just doesn't look fully right. I don't know. Maybe I could try moving it all closer to each other, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I like this as much as the one on the right. Let me think. The only thing I think this is good for is if I were to do a huge wheat field, because this doesn't do a good job at showing like big wheat fields, right? So I feel like if... Doesn't Ultimate General do hilly 2D illusions? Yeah, they do that, but here's the thing. Ultimate General maps are hand-drawn in something like Photoshop and imported, which is why you've never heard about a map editor ever being... I don't think anybody's even asked for a map editor, and that hasn't even been something they've ever put on their list, because in Ultimate General American Revolution, it's a little different, but they hand draw everything. The difference here is that because we're building it in-engine, like I'm using a tool that is actually accessible in-game right now. This is a real live tool. Technically, players could access this. They just wouldn't be able to export maps because the game doesn't know how to have a player through the front end of the game export and save that into the map folder. Like you have to do it through Unity. But anyways, because it's an in-game tool, I basically need to design it here, and I don't have as many... if I was an artist on Photoshop, I can just use a brush and just create illusions on the fly. But here I've got to figure out like what tools do I have for the job to try to create, and I'm not an artist as well. But it's also not practical to try to get an artist in to make all the maps, The left one works better in battle, but the right one looks better. Yeah, I think the right generally does look better. I wish I didn't delete that whole thing. Let me see. I can bring it back, can I? There we go. Yeah, let me see if I can make like a big wheat field, because maybe that... Or would you say a wheat field would be like, maybe... Hold on, maybe this is a better idea for a wheat field. What if it was like... And maybe this is wrong. Maybe this is incorrect. But what if it was... like that a little bit. And then this might end up being quite weird. If a soldier were to walk through it, it might be a little too tall. Let's see. Oh god, if he walked through it, he'd get buried. Let's see. Could I lower this? Like that? Let's see now. This doesn't really look correct. But yeah, right now I'm trying to figure out how I want to do the fields and like how I want the countryside to look natural. This just doesn't really work if I stretch out the field that large. I think if I did wheat fields, they'd be little clusters of these crops with all the wheat. And then I would just like put those kind of off the sides of certain roads and stuff. And then this would be my big general countryside farms. Do you guys like how these farms kind of roll out like this? Or do you think they should all be connected as like one gigantic piece that fills up this entire area? Or do you think they should be lots of tiny farms? Let's see, something else I'm looking at here. I also made this mock-up at some point, which might look a little more natural. So this didn't really use any hedges, it just used trees a lot. And it just had the farms kind of like come in and out in between roads. I think this this looks quite natural. It's just hard to figure out like how I want this to look. I really don't know. And then what else did I don't have many other good examples, honestly. Yeah, this one looks very nice. I don't know how that would translate to this one, though. I think I could probably do a bit of both. I could probably have, like, some mix of hedges and some trees. Make it a regional difference. Right now, I think for some added context, I'm just looking to, like, make generic European maps. And they'll have variety. Some will be more forested. Others will have more farm. I think the cornerstone of every map, though, will be farms. Because you can't go into a huge battlefield and not see any agriculture at all. That wouldn't make any sense. There could be a little amount of agriculture, so it could be less, but it's not like you'd have no farms. But if farms are going to be the staple, I really want to figure out kind of a look for them to make this look natural. I'll show you guys a glimpse. Did I change anything? Not really. I'll show you a glimpse of how it looks in battle. What's really cool is I can super easily jump in and test my maps as I'm working on them, which is really, really nice. So that's something way different from Fire Maneuver, is that I can easily jump in with one play button there, and I load in with a preset army on the map that I'm working on. And I can save it as I go and load in repeatedly to see how things look. You'll also notice things are going to look brighter and more vibrant in battle play mode because the post-processing effects work differently there than in the map editor. You know, I don't have the post-processing on like full display while I'm working on the map because it's just an unnecessary performance issue. You can see how much nicer it looks when you're in battle with the soldiers and the lighting, and it already looks more natural here. But yeah, this is how it'd look with like some troops there. So I can end deployment. And this is like what it would look like. Imagine I had the hedges and all the trees around this. Should I just try to get it to look closer like that one that you guys really liked? Like this one? If I were to do something like this, should I clear out all my farms and just try to make it look like there's a bunch of natural patchy farms on each side of the roads and they're just rolling around everywhere? Because this looks like, okay, big farm, nothing, nothing, big farm, nothing, nothing, big farm. So I could change it so it's like little farm, trees cut through it, little farm, trees cut through it, other side of the hill, farm on each side of the road, trees cut through that, lead to another farm. I could try to do something like that. I'm not sure. That's the one thing I'm just hung up on right now. I feel like I can make a pretty good looking village There's none on this map, but I can design one, I think, pretty well. And I think I can get the rivers to look nice. I think these hills look good, even though they're 2D. They don't look perfect, but like I think you can tell that this is an elevated position. And I put like there's like little rocks and stones, and they're actually like tilted at an angle to help sell that illusion a bit, right? So I think, and then the forests don't look bad. They're a little bit sparse, but I don't mind that because I've played Total War games before where the forests are so tall and dense that I can't see the troops in them, and that just makes it kind of annoying to command. So I kind of leave these open so it doesn't hurt performance and so that you can play in them effectively. So I like that as well. Try little tracks between the farms. Do you mean like little trails? Maybe it's also like that my roads look a little bit more natural. See how they're smaller? It's a smaller road and it's like really wobbly. And then look at these roads and they're just big and they just are very straight. So I wonder if that's causing an issue at all too. I would hate to have to just redo all the roads. But yeah. By the way, AI is still very much a work in progress. They like doing these little spins right now. But they're just trying to move up as an army. So these are their 4 regiments. They put the cavalry on the sides and then they try to advance together. AI is a separate kind of issue though. Something that is cool, by the way, is that the battle will get brighter over the course of the day, like the sun's coming out. So when you start a battle, it's a little darker, or like early morning. But yeah, any thoughts that you guys have on the farms would be appreciated. I'm just not really sure what direction I want to go with these. It feels like it's... Yeah, I think what I'm afraid to do is I've spent so much time on maps before that I'm afraid to be like, all right, these look good. I'm going to spend 4 hours doing all the hedges and all the texture work and put all the villages. And then at the end, we're like, I don't like that. I think that it should be done in a completely different way. I could make like a separate map real quick as a test that I'm not going to save and just make a basic layout and then just do some tests there. Maybe that would be a good idea. And you guys can kind of vote on which layout you like. And then we can kind of compare that to what we have here and make adjustments if needed. This is giving me deja vu. Last stream, I was doing the exact same thing. Yeah, I know. I just have so much trouble with the farms. I don't know. Once the enemy artillery sets up, it breaks. So I just get an error, and it kind of lags a little bit. They're just still having trouble, the AI setting up their artillery. Oh, are they shooting me? What the hell? But yeah, I guess maybe I could go in. I guess maybe I could go in and make a couple different mock-ups of how I could do farm layouts. I'm not sure. I'll open up map template, because this already includes spawns, meaning I can just get in right away. I will draw a little area for me to work within. There. So this is like my little workspace here. We could divide it into quadrants, honestly. Huh, okay, that's weird. There. I'll clean these up. Are the second flags in the regimental supposed to be the colonel's colors? Yeah, that's correct. They, in that battle you just saw, I think the Austrians were actually flying Prussian flags because it's just not set right in the That was like test mode. So test mode, it doesn't use the correct flags. Um, but yeah, typically what we're gonna do is they're just gonna fly the national flag next to the regimental one. And I could have gone with the proper, like something close to what the colonel's color would have been. But I don't know. I tested it, and like, for example, France's colonel's color was a white flag. Just a white flag. And I don't know. There's something about that it's like, I think it's cooler to see the fleur-de-lis and like the little national flag that we're using for France. What's another example? Like Prussia's looks like a regimental flag. It looks identical to the regimental flags, but it's typically white or like an inverted version of the main regimental one. So it just looks like you've got two, and then you might be confused if you customized one. So then just using the national flag is just easier. I don't know. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is set some roads up. And this one I'm going to try to make it look as natural as possible. I wonder if there's a different brush I could use for roads. That's like an option. Nah, I don't like that. Well, if this had really high strength, no, that's bad. That's kind of interesting. Remember that farmland would be dependent on villages, unlike in the US. In Europe, the village was the center of the farm life. There were single farmhouses, but not the majority. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I had one example, Michael, that I was quite happy with. Not this. I really liked this layout I made. Here. Where the farmland is like all on the outskirts of this village, and the village is in the center. And then you have the burgage plots behind the houses for like smaller crops that they grow. And then the bigger farms behind them. And then you can see it's mainly like hedges and trees that kind of break these up a bit. What I don't really like is in the bottom right, this is more of an American thing, like a fenced-in farmstead here. So I don't think that would be accurate to have. I don't know if it looks entirely out of place, though. Like, it's not bad for... I mean, how many maps on Empire Total War have you loaded into and you're like, oh, that is the historically authentic 18th century Central German layout? Every time I load in one, it's a gigantic empty farm with no building and a huge empty green field, and there's just nothing anywhere. And you're like, that's fine. I'm just fighting a battle. So, yeah, it is just a game. So, but, like, this is one of my favorite layouts, I'd say. It's just difficult to know what the layout should look like when it's big open country. So this is good if I make a little farm here, but what happens when it goes out into the middle of nowhere? That's where it gets more confusing. So for example, I'll just open, I don't even know if I want to use this test template. I don't know. I'll open up my main map here. By the way, something that we're still testing, that's not perfect yet, but you can switch to winter, just like this, just kind of neat. It doesn't look perfect, but it is kind of cool seeing all the winterized assets. This, I think, needs a little work. This looks a little weird. I feel like it could just use this same texture, but have like patchy snow over it instead of blobs. These are like blobs. I'm not really a fan how the snow lays here. Remember, pasturage is very important. What do you mean by that? Like having like fenced in areas for animals? Or am I stupid? Pasturage. Like open grazing land? Is that what you mean? Or do you mean like fenced in? What? Not machine harvested, but just turn your animals out to graze. Yeah. So like some open field areas for grazing. Yeah. But like, take a look at this. I think this looks okay. I'm somewhat happy with this. I'm just thinking like, what is it okay that this is just a big open grass area? Do you like that the farms are, even aesthetically, do the farms look good like this? Or, and I could put villages. I can do like a village. I think a village location would be really good right here because this is kind of in each side. The other thing I can kind of do is I could erase these farms, place down a few villages, and then just have the farms try to sprawl out from the villages. But then you'd have really big grass areas where there's just nothing. Whereas with this, I tried to make like lots of land in use with lots of farms. I don't know. I'm really honestly not sure how I want to do this. It's funny because I never overthought it this much in Fire Maneuver. I don't even think you really had farmland in Fire Maneuver. It was just all mostly grass. But that game was more abstracted and you were super zoomed out. You could like see the literal table that you're fighting on. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just really not sure how I want to do this. I'm going to save a copy. And call this delete 1. So I'm going to branch out and just think like, I'm going to just put my head down for a little bit and see if I can come up with something. Let me, this feels so crap. Well, I made a save copy, so I'm just going to delete all this. All right, and now it's time to just put my head down and just clear all this out. Try to put the houses next to the main roads and fill the meadows with grazing animals or put a tree or two cut down. I can't do grazing animals, unfortunately. Even though I'd love to, because if I did, they'd be static assets, so they would just stand there, which might look a little weird. So I don't think I can do that. But it's kind of an abstraction, so you can kind of picture if there are grazing areas, you can almost picture that there's animals there, and that's just something that has to be more abstracted. Like when you play Total War, I don't think you see one animal on the battlefield, but that's not something that you're looking for. It's not like you're looking at a work of art. You're just focused on fighting the battle. So that's kind of what this is too. Also, this is one map where I didn't want to do any water. I just want to start small and just do a map where there's no water at all. So that's why there's no streams or creeks, which it might make the map look more natural, to be honest, if we do add a couple creeks. Maybe it's not realistic to have a map with no water at all. I don't know. Because normally you'd have at least some like little creeks. On a map this large, this is such a big chunk of country that maybe that would be natural to include. Okay, I've removed all the farms. Do you have? I do not have impassable rivers, no. I'm not going to be doing those because it's a pathfinding issue. You can kind of imagine the AI all bottlenecking or getting stuck, or your troops all glitching out trying to... Remember like Rome 1 or Medieval 2 trying to get on the walls or trying to go through narrow streets or trying to go through a bridge? And they couldn't even really get that right. And then I think by the time of Empire Total War, bridges were just completely cut. And now, if they're included in Total War games, they're super abstracted and large. Because even Total War with a custom-made engine can't get it to work right. And so this is our first attempt. So I said, you know what? Let's take it easy. Let's not be overambitious. There's already a lot of strategic value with like elevated positions, cover, farmland, villages. So we decided not to. It really sucked because I was looking forward to doing like bridge battles. But sometimes you just have to make compromises with what you've got, because I'd rather have a better game that's less glitchy. You know, if I gave it to you guys and the troops were spilling off the bridges into the water and the AI was glitching out and having pathfinding problems and it ruined your battle and you quit the game and didn't play it again because of that, that would suck. So I'm really just trying to minimize bad experiences and just try to make everything smooth and polished as much as I can. All right, here's where I'm going to just try to improvise. And what I want to do is maybe create some smaller... I'm just going to have to take some creative risks and just go for it. I'm going to like create some smaller dirt paths. That's what I'm going to do first. That look more like this. There. And I'm going to try to fill those out. I'm not going to base this on anything historical. I don't really know what I'm going for. I'm just going to try to fill out the map. And I think what I'm trying to go for is I'm going to create some like paths and then create farmland that goes off of these paths. And I think that's what I want to try to go for. Again, I know that the farms are very based on the villages, but I can place the villages after, and I can include a few that are dotted around the map. But I just want to create some little natural trails and things. Because these little trails, I feel like, you guys really liked that one map that I showed, and that one map had all these tiny little trails. And I feel like natural small trails give me opportunities to put farms on them on the sides. And it makes it look like a farmer kind of cleared out the area and is like, I guess it makes it look a little more lived in. Or this could completely backfire and it could make the map look really messy with way too many little paths and look unrealistic. I really don't know. But I think part of this is just trying to get comfortable and take some risks and experiment and just try to make something that looks nice. And you kind of have to use your gut because I don't really know what the hell I'm doing. So I think my issue to try to solve the big open fields that look a little plain is going to be to fill them up with little paths with farms on the sides. And then put in other like trees and texture and stuff to try to fill out anything that is the grazing area where it is deliberately left open. And this isn't entirely realistic because you'd be like, why is the road bending randomly? But again, I'm trying to take some creative risks, and I am just trying to figure out something that could look nice. I don't know. We'll just see how this looks. I'm completely cool with erasing all of this at the end if it doesn't look good. But I'm just trying to figure out like a style that I like. And then once we land on a style, if there's anything good that comes out of this, if we land on a style, then I feel like the map making will become a lot easier. Okay, so I've added a bunch of little trails and stuff. There's 2 more central areas that probably just need more work here. People used to try to maximize the amount of space each field covered. If you make the fields first, then put a village molded into them, you can make a cool design. Yeah. I think that's kind of what I'm going to go for. Village by the crossroad. Yeah, I think important junctions should be where the populated areas are. There. And these roads, these like windy farm roads, we'll call them, which I probably should have made them a little smaller, but I think they're okay. But these windy farm roads are going to be where we have opportunities to put rolling farmland cut with these little roads and then find natural opportunities to place villages. I think having just lots of like windy roads and just like make it look really lived in, I think is kind of I think that's kind of what I want to go for. So just adding a bit more. I think what I'll do is I'll break this off here. And again, this could be a huge waste of time. We'll see. Okay, I think this is generally on the right track. And I'm going to add one more that just cuts down. Is there a benefit to movement on roads? Right now there isn't, no. We've considered it, and it's definitely possible. Like, I could go through and manually mark all of these with data points. I just don't know if that's, like, I've played the game, and it's just not the type of game where you're like, all right, I've got to march for 3 hours. Which road am I going to take? Like, when you play Total War, you don't do that at all. Now, that being said, we're not going for fully the Total War experience in terms of arcadiness. So there are things like you can go into a marching column formation, for example, and that will speed up your regiment. Also, typically the roads tend to exist in areas that don't have obstructed terrain. So if you did go into columns and stick to roads, that's not a bad idea, but you don't get like a huge speed buff from it. I think I'll put like another forest in here just for the sake of it. That looks decent. I think kind of what I kind of want to do here is fill this out like that, and then I kind of want to do something like this, and maybe even like that, because it's kind of cool to have a road that goes through like a forested area. And then again, I'm just improvising. I don't really know what the hell I'm doing. I also like to do this part in winter because look how much easier it is to paint the dirt underneath the trees. You can just see it way better. Does this mean there's going to be a command to follow the roads? No, there is not. I mean, you could hold shift to set waypoints. So you technically could, if you really wanted to follow the roads, you could. There. All right, that fills out one of the sections with a little more forest. Maybe there could be a little bit more on the edge there. But it shouldn't matter because look at the play zone. Anything outside of this play zone technically is ignored. It's not part of the map. I bet the play zone could be extended vertically a little bit, but we could look at that at the end. Yeah, armies would deploy in open areas. Yeah, I think that's generally true. I think this map I want to go for something more forested for variety. So I'm not going to add too much. Do you guys like that forest there, or should I cut it? The one that I added kind of in the south right here. I could cut it to kind of leave it as an open area with just farm and stuff. I don't know. The next thing I'm going to do, though, is now I'm going to try and do the farms just like along some of the dirt path roads that I was discussing. And I don't even know if this is going to look any good. I don't even know what size I want to make them. Yeah, trees can hinder movement and give cover. I can actually I can define zones and define the speed that you go through. Which again, does let me make roads make you go faster. It's just a lot of tedious work that I don't know if it's worth it too much. There, like this could look kind of nice. And before we even go any further, I don't know why that is over there. So I could just start filling in. Do you kind of see the vision I'm going for here, where I fill in a lot with the farmland? I don't know if that's going to make the map way too busy. Yeah, I don't know. And also, I don't know if you would expect a little bit of cover if you're in these farm areas. Maybe you would. But if I put them everywhere, then there's cover everywhere, and that might defeat the purpose. And then if everything's covered, then nothing's covered, you know? It's like... This kind of looks nice, though, where like, it cuts through with the farmland here. It's really tough knowing, like, what level of detail I want to go for as well. I have rock walls, I do. I don't know if rock walls were as common. Not that it matters. I mean, it matters what looks good, to be honest. But yeah, I have these little rock walls that I can do, that I can put around them. I tend to prefer the hedges because I have more control over the angles because it's 2D. So watch, this takes a little while, but once you get it down, once you get into the flow of it, it gets a little easier. I'll just show you guys what this section looks like, and we'll kind of feel it out, but I'm just still not feeling too sure of myself and with this design here. Because, like, I just don't know how much farmland I want, and if I want to over-rely on it to fill out, like, a lot of the map, or if it's too much or too little. And I think that just makes it difficult for me. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with it, but I just can't land... I'm kind of defining the entire aesthetic of the game, like, of how every battle is going to look. So that's why I think I've been treating this with a lot of, like, reservation or hesitancy, because I'm just not sure what impression I want to give people. And I don't know what looks good. So it's kind of difficult to know how much farmland I want to go for. I do think if I covered the whole map in it, it's going to, first of all, take me way too long to do that. And I think it's going to get kind of repetitive just seeing it everywhere. Which, by the way, I don't need to do hedges for the whole thing. I think it actually looks better when you do something that's like a mixture of hedges and just take pauses. That's something that I do think aesthetically does look nicer. I'll round out this corner here. And kind of hold it there. And now if you fill it out with some trees, which for this map I'm using like mainly these two. Like that. I think that looks nice. I think you could even do a couple things like there to subdivide, which kind of looks nice. Maybe that's too many trees, actually. If I did that just a little less here. Something like that could look nice. Like, that looks natural to me, I feel. Like that little farm plot. I'm just wondering if with this, let's take a little pause. How much of this map realistically should be farmland, right? Because tree line your roads, but those trees would be a problem for a plow. Yeah, I don't know if the intention is that if this doesn't look good, I can remove it. It definitely would be like if you were to work the fields, this would be annoying. But the idea was like that this divides maybe two different sections, or like one is being harvested at one time and one is at a different time. So it's kind of like an abstract thing. I don't know if that looks good though. I can remove it if it doesn't look good. I had another example that was here. Oh, uh-oh, what did I just do? That was here, where I like split some of these down, and I didn't think it looked bad the way they were like split and divided a little bit. I don't know if that looks good though. I can get rid of that if we don't like it. Is it really that odd to have a tree growing that you missed? Okay, well, okay, someone says 60 to 80% would be farmland and pastures. Well, pastures are just big green open fields and like flowers, and I can add that. But how much should be like worked farmland, basically? So in green, we'll do. These are our forests. Do you guys like a lot of the little roads that I made, or does that look too hectic? What's generally the opinion on all the mini roads that I made off the main roads? So those are all of our forests, okay? And so I'm going to mark now the roads. I don't even need to mark the roads. Okay, let's just talk about the main point, which is like I would do a farm here, a little farm. Maybe there. I think like I kind of want the farms to hug the mini roads. They should that's kind of what I think. They should follow the mini roads. So like encapsulated in there, but there's no mini road there, so this could be open like grazing area, right? And then this would be like a farmland there. Like I like that. And then that's a little mini road, so we could do farmland here. And then this is just around the hill, so that can stay that way. This could optionally be like a big plot like this. That's next to the forest. I don't really like that being there. This area could be open, I think, which I also missed some hay bales. This area could all be encased in farmland. This is roughly what I'm thinking so far. I don't know. I don't know if I love this. I'm just trying to think. Manor and private fields. What do you mean by private fields? I can do a manor and we can add buildings afterwards and make everything, we can spruce everything up. I'm just trying to like, let's take a step back and think in a zoomed out way. I can definitely make everything look pretty, add these little homes, add fences, add little bushes, an outhouse, a little church, add villages. I can do all those things. That's a no-brainer. I can even add little ponds and lakes with trails that go around them, all sorts of things like that. But I'm just trying to like in a zoomed out perspective, how do you make the map look good when a player zooms out and takes in the countryside, and trying to get that countryside look is just, I don't know why I'm struggling so bad with it. Yeah, there will be an advantage to hills, for sure. Hills will give you, this whole hill here will give you a big cover bonus an elevation bonus when you're on it. Does this look good at all? I don't know. Let me get rid of the forests. Is that good for farmland? I can save this, which I think is currently under delete 1 because I put it on a temporary file. And then I'm going to open up the other map, which I called main map, and load that. And this is the other option if we don't want to go for what I was working on there. The other option is this, which this feels off, right? Something feels a little bit off about this by comparison. This looks like big estates. It doesn't have that messy European, you know, when you go through a European city and all the roads are all messed up and they're all going different directions and you can just tell there's history behind it. This feels like an American went out west and we plotted out lands with like rulers and markers, and you have this big farmer's estate, and this gives me the impression of like what you'd see in America almost. Which I'm not European, so I don't know, but these feel a little more isolated. Whereas the other one, I feel like the direction of this is like just lots of rolling farms and like roads that cut through them and then cut across them and new ones form, and I feel like that maybe is more natural. Yeah, I don't like the map with the isolated plots either. I'm not a big fan of that. I can add water at the end. I think that's what I'll probably do. And you guys said you didn't really like this idea to like cut through a farm with forests, or sorry, with trees, instead to just do something like this. I still like the idea of the hedges ending sometimes and then having some trees filled in. I think that looks nice. But yeah, I think lots of little separated farms is good. And maybe these give you like a 5% cover bonus when you're in them. I think that's about all they should do. um, yeah, they shouldn't give too much cover, really. Um, this feels like too large to me, though. Like, do you, okay, this, I like these small little plots. Something does feel like we're on the right track with this. This feels off, or it's this just one gigantic farm. Maybe something like this would be different if it was like how would you feel if it was like more like this? Maybe I do them in like clusters. Like, does that look more natural? I think that looks more natural, right? Like little clusters inside these tiny roads, and then kind of do them in clusters across the map. Like that one looks decent, that looks decent, this one looks all right. I think this is generally the direction. Yeah. And then we can place down some villages after. I know, Michael, you're saying it was the opposite way around, but I'm working a little backwards here. We're gonna make the process more refined next time, but I'm just trying to like figure out the farms first and how I want them to look. If I spent, imagine this, imagine I spent 6 hours building the most beautiful villages, and then I didn't like the way the farms looked, and then I had to erase them over and over again. I was erasing into the bits of the villages, and I did delete parts of the villages and then restart it and then move it. Then it creates problems, right? So I want to lay out the big defining features first and get a style that I like, and then when that style really, which I think this looks good, I think when that style really solidifies, then next time the villages can come first, and I would have so much confidence that I would just know the villages or the farms would look good, just sprawling out of them. But this, to me, I think is the right track. I'm glad we figured it out, because this is like clusters of mini plots surrounded by miniature roads, and then villages will kind of grow off of those. And I think this is more the direction. I'll save this picture in case something happens. But yeah, this I think generally just seems like a better direction. So let's kind of put our heads down again and work on this for a little bit. And as Michael was saying as well, we can do the villages afterwards. I know that the villages are going to be put on sources of water as well, so maybe this idea of not having water on this map was a bit ambitious. Or not ambitious, but like naive, I guess, that you can't really do a map at this size with no source of water. If we were doing like a very minor section of this map as a small farmstead, you know, you could imagine there could be water elsewhere off the map. But in this case, There. So now we're sort of achieving that look of that one image I showed where we had all those little roads going through the farms. And we'd managed to blend that with this map that has main roads. So we can kind of do both. We can do main roads and then small roads that split off and have little farmsteads. And then we take a little break. And then we'll do... This will be a big plot, honestly. Which maybe it doesn't need to be this big. Maybe it could go... Maybe it could go kind of like this. Where it comes up and around. Like that. This way it doesn't need to fill up the whole thing. And then... And this makes sense to have all the little roads going through them, right? Because if you want to work the fields, it doesn't really make sense to have one gigantic field in isolation in the middle of nowhere with like one small road that happens to go near it. You probably want them with enough kind of paths around them. Kind of like this. There, like that, I think looks good to me. And I think we'll get better at this later on. I might do like one patch there and there. Maybe. I don't know. I think I'm happy with this. We'll fill the rest out with like more trees, and it's not bad to just have some open grass fields in some places. The central part of this battlefield, though, is going to be mainly fought in a forest, by the looks of it here. Yeah. These are the deployment zones based on the size of your army. If you have a large army, it'll extend the map out, so you play on the full map with large armies. But if you have a small army, it kind of crops the map like this. So you're just kind of playing in a... This map is almost like a forest map if you're on small. If you're on large, you get more of the whole open countryside. Yeah, I think that's okay. But yeah, we'll get better at this as we practice. I think we're on the right track at least. I'll open the chat up because I haven't checked it in a while. Do you have... I do have windmill, but I don't have anything besides a windmill. Maps look huge. Yeah, they're a little big. Here's the thing, it does get cropped down by this play zone. I can hide the medium and small. So this would be the play zone on large, which I may even extend a little vertically because I have a little dead space it's not using. That might be good for deployment, just having more open space in the top and the bottom. And then if you were, again, on like a smaller battlefield, it would look like this. See how it crops it? Which something that could be kind of cool, by the way, is I can actually make multiple small play zones on the same map. So you could play on the bottom left corner or in the top right corner or in the center. So that if you're leading a small army, there's 3 ways you could spawn into this map for added variety. Let me bring those back. and then turn them off. Is this map a map idea from the Discord or entirely yours? I copied somebody's road layout. I think it was Ocean's map where I did his road layout. But the farms and stuff, and the farms and the hills, and then I extended the forest, and then I added more roads, and now it's kind of different. And I'm not really going off a plan right now. I'm just trying to create something that I think looks nice, you know. The field seems small. I like the collection of fields, but the actual field seems small. I don't know if, honestly, relative to a single, like, house, look how massive it is compared to this home. You could fit an entire town here. So imagine you had a village that was like this. There's the village, and then that's all the farms that they have for that one small village area. In that context, I don't think it's too small. I also just don't want them to be too large, because they're just going to be too dominant. So I really just have to find a balance also for gamification as well. Yeah, just so the perspective is good. All right, I think I'll just fill out. This is going to be real boring, but I might just fill out these farms now with hedges. So, yeah, this is going to be incredibly boring. I could do villages, because that would be more interesting to watch. But, yeah, I don't know. Something that would be a great idea, honestly, is maybe I could do these hedges and save them as like a prefab, so that if I make another map, I just place down the hedges and then fill in the texture, and I don't have to fill in hedges every time. You know what I mean? Like, I'd save copies of all these different layouts of all these hedges I'm doing. And by the way, I don't think it's bad to leave like a gap, because I can fill the rest in with trees. So if I want a little break or a little cheat, I just leave gaps and then fill it in with trees. I think that's good. But yeah, I can make like prefabs, because I'd have enough of them that it's not like you're going to see them too many times and recognize them. Which one's slightly... What's a slight rotation to the left? That's 2 rotated, though. Huh, okay. What's something slightly more rotated? I guess that one there. Yep. Kelly says, the map editor's looking smooth. Thank you, Kelly. You found my stream. Is Benji still with you? Did you trap him in the office? Or is he looking through windows right now? I don't know if Kelly's still here. I don't know when she wrote that message. He's roaming, looking through windows. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think once he gets more used to it, then he'll settle down. But he's really not like laid down at all. And I think he's just still a little nervous, so. Okay, so there's one. See how long that takes? It's kind of annoying. Timo, there's no playtesting available right now. There's really not much to playtest, to be honest. Like, I'm still building the maps, and what you're seeing is like the first map of the game. I've shown off like glimpses of maps in my devlogs, but they're never complete. I usually build them for the devlogs to test on them. So this is like the first time I've taken all my lessons, and I'm really just trying to build a map based on everything that I've learned and make an official in-game map. The AI is also just not really working right now, and it was due a long time ago, but we had tons of trouble with AI, so we had to put a different developer on it. we had to kind of restart, and we're making good progress now, but restarting AI this late is dangerous, but it's just something that we had to do. I think it's coming along well though. Like, I would imagine about a month from now, it should be in a good enough state where you can run some battles. And if I have a month, I can build multiple maps. And so we'd have multiple good-looking maps with an AI that's more functional and fighting properly. And then that is a condition where I feel like the game is going to get close to be ready for testing. So that kind of puts us in, like, I guess April's like our last month where we can kind of put our heads down and not show anybody our work, where I'm just like making maps to myself. I mean, I am streaming it. I just mean no one's playing it. So I'm just making maps by myself. And then we're working on the AI by ourselves, and then just spending April testing and testing and testing. And then I guess May would be when we should probably open things up and get some opinions and have people play test. I think that schedule sounds about right. I think we should be able to make it. The campaign's like pretty much done, which is cool. We haven't touched it in a while because it's the furthest along part of the game. I think our developer, our programmer who's currently working on the game, he's very good at, like, if you said build a grand strategy system, he can just make that. That's not hard for him. But if you said, like, do physics calculations and create a real-time battle system that simulates thousands of individual soldiers and how they would move fluidly and how they would engage in melee combat and what happens if you charge diagonally and what are the mathematical calculations to try to do that, or how does an AI mathematically calculate the width of a line that it needs to form to engage in battle and still look natural and smooth while doing it and doesn't look like a hive mind rushing to a point. That's where it's like, I think there's multiple different types of developers who kind of specialize in things, and he's better at, like, systems oriented work. Again, like the campaign system he built with ease, where there are some other developers who might struggle, kind of getting lost in the math, and not even necessarily the math, but the systems, I should say. And so he's very good at handling systems, but doing, like, things like the AI and melee calculation stuff just take a little bit longer. That's all. So that's why it's been harder for us to get that done in time. Okay, so here's 2 big fields. I think this looks decent. And then you have some open grass area, which originally when I was building these roads I was intending for more farms, but I really don't want to overdo it. Like, I think this is a good even distribution. Maybe there'd be there are other maps with more farms and some with less. But yeah, you can see how long that takes with placing down these hedges. It's definitely worth it, though, because it doesn't look very good when you don't have these dividers. But there's no other way around it. I think what I'm really going to have to do is maybe even when I finish this map, I'm not sure. I'll have to go talk. I think we'll have to do it is I'll have to go talk with the developer and figure out how we could do prefabs, where I can have prefabricated farm plots like this that I can just, like, save and place down. Because this is a little time consuming. I think something else that could help, it doesn't really help that much, is I was going to say I can actually copy and paste bunches, but look how much I'm switching between these, that selecting a bunch wouldn't be that useful unless the farm was very, very straight and boxy. But then it doesn't look natural, so I don't think that really works. But yeah, at least this detailing, like, takes up a pretty sizable part of the map. It's not like I have to spend this amount of time detailing for 2% of the map that's being used, right? Like, it's a lot of work, but I think it's being utilized. It's going to be seen a lot and utilized by soldiers. Add some rocks. Yeah, I can add stuff like that later, but right now I am just focusing on doing the farms. Like I said, this part is going to be boring because it's mainly just doing the hedges on the farms. that one's done. Yeah, this part sucks. I really wish there was a way to automate this. If I could like draw a line, gosh. Because I'm just thinking about how many maps I have to make and how long this is going to take to do it on all of them. So I don't really know. I mean, it's worth the result, right? Like this looks nice with the hedges. Yeah. I think it's worth the result. Without it, it just doesn't look quite as good. If this is a 3D game, there'd be a much better way to automate it, because you could actually like do a tool where you can like dynamically draw and connect them. But because it's 2D, I'm individually placing bunches of fake 2D images that billboard up to make them look like bushes. So it's definitely a limitation in that regard. We could switch them to 3D, but that would mean everything I'm doing right now would have to be put on hold and also probably deleted and redone. And I'd be delayed like a week. I kind of just want to keep making the maps. So I think to me, the better solution would be prefabs. Like, for example, just to give you an example of what I mean by that. Watch this. I can grab these, copy and paste it, and now look. So imagine I had a map where I had a bunch of these just sitting off the map, a ton of these collections of hedges, and I could copy and paste them and bring them, just drag and drop them onto the map like that. And then clean up the ones I don't want afterwards. Like that to me seems like the way to do it. I think for this individual map though, I'll just bite the bullet and just do the tedious work, and I think that's fine. Do you think it's possible that you could use maps by the community in the game? Could you solve it so that the name of the creator could be hidden on the map? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Do you mean like give access to the map editor or make people's maps that they submitted on Discord? Or both? I'm not sure what you mean. And then, sorry, 1 second. I think I have to release a video. So let's go do that. Battle the Marne. Adding dubbing is now added, automatically translated. Okay. Battle the Marne's here. Thumbnail set. Sponsor link works. Okay, we have a video out now. It's really short. I would like to go back to making long videos soon. We just don't have the budget, partially because of the game. So we've had to shorten a lot of our videos, which has really hurt their performance, which kind of sucks. So once the game's out, I'm just going to swing that budget back to YouTube and hopefully go back to like 25-minute videos and get some viewers again. Could you code it to place hedges along a spline with the asset determined by the spline angle? That was a thought. Siberian production. How could you do that? You would like place a point. You could. I think the issue is not every angle's covered. So like I oftentimes look, I'm like fudging it a little where I'm like going a little offset. If you clicked and it's like popping between two different hedges that look like that, and it's popping between them and it can't straddle the correct line, and then you need it to pick the correct angle and then follow the designated path, it'd just be a little hard on 2D. We do have spline tools. Look, I have a spline tool here where you can create rivers and roads. But unless you did a 3D, if you did a 3D bush, you could do the spline tool using the existing spline plugin that we use for things like rivers. But yeah, I think the prefab idea probably works best, to just create some prefabricated farms and then plop them down and then put the roads based on those, like lay out the roads based on the farms or something like that, and then build it out from there. But yeah, you can see this part kind of sucks. It's like pretty boring. There's not much to talk about regarding it, and it's not the fun part of map making. Like I said, once I get this system down, I'll do the prefabs, and the next map I build, if I stream it, you won't have to watch this part. There we go. So those are all done. And then we'll place some trees on those. Good. And then we will also go ahead and do some trees along the roads. let's take a look at the playable zone. And I am curious if I take this and we stretch it north. Like that, to fill out the rest of the map a bit. Yeah. So that would be small, medium, large, roughly. Okay. Yeah, sorry if I'm ignoring the chat a little bit. I just got tired all of a sudden. I think I kind of talked myself to being tired. Anyways, I'll respond to a couple things. Maybe some fences for the farms. Yeah, I could think about that. Creator's name appears on the map. Yeah, maybe. Not on the side of a house. There's a lot of clicking in there for all directions. You could add a simple left right arrow to turn an object to rotate. Yeah, I do agree that I could probably do a hotkey or something that could let me toggle between left and right. Some historical battlefields. Yeah, I could see myself maybe doing that. I'm not finished, Eagle. I'm just going in for testing, which is something that's cool, is that you can immediately export a map and test it as you finish it. So this size that we're in, we're on the medium version of this map. So notice it actually cropped the... Now this is a little glitchy. The fog is messed up. But notice it kind of cropped out the sides. So this is kind of cool. You have like a leftward flanking area through these farms. That looks nice. You have like a main hill area, these farms here. And on the right, you can kind of flank around the open fields. And then there's a hill on this side. This is kind of cool. I like this. And the size seems really nice. Yeah, I'm liking how this is coming out so far. I think I like the way the hedges look. Here are my dragoons. Grenadiers. Those are my troops. You could like set these guys up on the side of the road in marching column. Which something, by the way, you can't... See how you can't make them thin enough? If I do this, what happens? Yeah, no. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into core data. And we're going to go ahead and find the... Is it like column or minimum? Column formation speed modifier, minimum... Jaden, AI artillery does not work, but player artillery does. I think the AI's artillery is going to break. Let's see where they're at. They're up here. I'm going to retreat their artillery there, which I don't know if that broke it. No, it's not broken. My artillery here works. You can see them here. I can move them. They're very slow right now. Maybe too slow. I'll fast forward. Kind of move them up. And then I can unlimber them, so I can toggle them. And now they'll switch and kind of detach the guns. You can also move them while they're detached, which is cool. The weird thing is these guys moonwalk. So here, this part is not that good. The moonwalking is not great. That'll be fixed. But you can actually move them at a slower pace when they're unlimbered. And then the range is like very narrow right now, but that can be fixed. And then we can tell them to take a quick shot and see if it works. The craters are not implemented yet, so when they shoot, the skids that the cannonballs leave are going to be a little glitchy. But yeah, let's have these walk up to the target. And right as they stop, we'll go to slow motion mode so we can follow the cannonball. The flags float a little bit. I don't even know if that's going to be able to be fixed. All right, slow motion, ready, they're firing. One cannon's off. Oh, fuck, that's fast. Damn, I couldn't even follow it. Yeah, the cannonballs go fast. The damage on cannonballs are maxed out at like 1,000% right now. So the moment they hit, they just obliterate things. It's like World War I artillery. But you can see it. They actually fired their shots across the map and knocked those guys out. They're just way too deadly. Are battalion guns abstracted into the formations, or they'll be? It kind of both. They are abstracted, but they're a real thing. So your artillery goes through two stages. It goes through the battalion gun stage. So this is field artillery. You can also have Prussian battalion artillery. And battalion artillery is smaller. It's only like 100 manpower instead of 250. Which, by the way, this 250 is not even necessarily a realistic number. It's just big enough that if this is too small, they're way too squishy. And the AI doesn't do a good job. All right, let's see them fire here. Firing, there's the cannon. Oh my god, the cannonballs are fast. They bounce. You can see they skipped. And they actually flew and hit all the way back here because they land there, skipped off the ground, and then slammed into the back. So there is there's a physics calculation with the cannonballs where they can do skipping, which is kind of cool. It's strange the artillery goes backwards. Yeah, that can be fixed. That's actually quite easy to fix. We can just have these guys turn around. That's not too hard to do. But yeah, as far as yeah, the cannon range, like I was saying, this range is way too long and narrow. It should be wider and shallower, but it can fire. This range actually isn't too bad, in my opinion. I think it should just be a little bit shorter. But yeah, artillery is still kind of a work in progress. They're not very polished. I think the infantry combat is a lot more polished, I've found. Now let's go to the largest version of this map. So let's go to the same map and actually set debug settings to large. And it's going to be very subtle. But when we load in, you'll notice the spawn zones especially are going to be larger. And so this is the same map, but it'll scale. It'll scale dynamically based on the amount of guys that you brought to battle. Now, I have the dynamic scaling off because we're doing test battles, so I manually set the scaling. But this is now the full map. So look on the left. Remember it was just the farm fields? Actually, remember you deployed like this, and then you could go to the flank to the farm fields. Now you can deploy into the farm fields, and your flank is a whole forest over here. So that's a whole new section of the map opened up. And then on the right, look how big this is. Remember I was saying you could deploy here. Sorry, I need water or something. You could deploy here, and then you could flank out on the grass fields. Now you can deploy straight into these grass fields, and then you have a whole new section of the map with a forest out here and more fields. And this full hill is now, you can fight on the right side of it or center. And if you zoom all the way out, this is the full extent of the map. Which I think this is a good battlefield map. This seems like quite large to fight on. It'll take plenty of time to march these soldiers up to battle. I'll show you some combat between infantry as well. Nothing advanced because the AI is still a huge work in progress. But I will march some infantry up. And fast forward. And I'll run them. When I run them, though, they're going to get tired. Are these guys running? Yeah. They're already at half. They're at fresh right now. Still fresh, okay. They're winded. It's already now getting tired. I don't know how these guys are so much faster. Yeah, their movement speed is way faster for whatever reason. I don't know why that is. Okay. So we'll try to engage the enemy. Oh yeah, I completely forgot, Michael, to go and change the march column thing. I was about to go do that. Oh, I think the range broke, yeah. Yeah, the AI is just not ready. Like, these guys are not going to be able to, they're not going to be able to do a range engagement right now. I could turn the AI off, and they would, but the AI is just a work in progress. They're in, like, debug mode, so it's not really going to work. Is the enemy going to shoot me? They might be able to shoot me. Here. No, they cannot. Okay. I think I could order a charge. There we go. This is new. So, look, they have a momentum bar as they get in for the charge. They're tired. That's why they're moving. They're winded. So that's why they're moving a little slow. But they're moving in for the charge. The higher the momentum, the deadlier that charge is going to be. And so they go into melee, and then everybody kind of jabs at each other. It's not perfect, but at least that's working now. That was not working at all before. Like, there was no melee system to speak of. And it's not too heavily based on casualties, melee. So most of my guys survived. If you look at the percentage of the amount of guys who died, it's not a huge amount. But it does, like, really hurt their morale. So they'll go into retreat mode. They'll probably recover. There. Now they've recovered. The flags are kind of glitchy. Just ignore that. Those will come back there. But yeah, it's still a lot of stuff is just work in progress right now. All right, I'll go back to map editing. Oh, I forgot to edit the columns again. Let's go change that. Crap, this document is so large, I don't know where it is. I'm going to do this. I'm going to let them space out. There. They can stand a little wider now. And then they can get a little closer too. I usually like to build the core data twice because sometimes it doesn't pull it. Okay, jumping back in. All right, let me see if that changed anything. There we go. So someone was asking about the columns, right? So look what I changed. Now look, I can do a marching column like this, like that. So you can march by platoon. Very narrow. Maybe too narrow? I feel like that is too much, right? It's a little too much. But I also didn't increase the width you can do. So now you can do this and make them get a little bit wider of a line. This almost looks like the staff behind a regiment when you go this wide. Or you can form them like this and get kind of like 2 battalions kind of formed up type of thing. If you don't like the look of the 2 battalion line like this, you can switch the game scale to medium, and medium will only load in 1 battalion. This is an abstraction of like 1,200 men as a regiment, 1st battalion in front, 2nd battalion in the back. The reason we don't let it, take these 3 ranks and send them over there is because then the line can stretch all the way down, which is a little too thin. And if you go on, like I said, if you go to medium, I'll go to medium next for the next test, but I essentially want to bring this up to 8 and 6 there. So we'll go to medium after this, and I'll pull the core data. There. Okay, we'll take our infantry. So the width, see, look at this. In medium, you can form them up in like 2.5 ranks, or you can try to keep them a little denser and just do a full 3 ranks like this. Or you can try to squeeze them in, and they'll form like a secondary line behind them, which almost forms like a pseudo attack column. So you can kind of almost picture it like that. That would be kind of an attack column. Not that that's relevant in the 7 Years' War, but you can kind of create your own formations. And then you can do column of march like that, which I'll show you the speed difference between each as they travel. So we'll tell the march column to move up there. We'll tell the line to move up there. And let's see if there's a big speed difference here. Take a look. See, the guys in column are slightly going past them now. So it's not too much faster. I could probably make it even faster than what it is now. But it does give you a nice little bit of speed. Over time, if you imagine moving across the whole map, it's going to save you time. You're going to beat the enemy to get there first. And then you can spread out and form line. And run them to position if you need to. And then I'll show you what it looks like on Ultra. Ultra size is a little unrealistic. The only thing realistic is it just gives you a better sense of scale of how many guys would have been actually there on the battlefield. So this is the ultra scale mode. And so you can see a regiment here is now a much larger block of men. You could almost imagine, like, the way I like to think of this is like if you looked at the Battle of, I guess Hocker can work. I prefer like Hostenbeck or something. Actually, you know what would be a better one is Chostazits. Sorry to keep switching it. Yeah, I do prefer this for this example. I also really like this website. Oh yeah, Frederick is not deployed yet, so it's not the greatest example. What's a better battle where Frederick has his men deployed in a standard? I guess like Hohenfriedberg. I like this website though, Obscure Battles, a lot. Let's find see if I can find another battle from them. Yeah, I guess like the example of the double battalion lines is kind of like, it kind of represents having like this. See how they're right back to back? It's kind of an abstraction of being able to do that. Otherwise, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 20. You'd have to have 28 units just to command this small area. But with that double battalion thing where they're standing back to back, you can kind of abstractly just get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 regiments, and then another 8. So you could just have like 16 regiments, and you still have more left over to flank with on the sides if the max unit size is 20. Anyways, I don't know. It just looks nicer than having no gap, where it's just 6 ranks of men directly touching. This at least makes it look like 2 ranks of 3, since they would have been fighting in 3 ranks. But again, if you let them, if you just made it in terms of width so they can stand next to each other, then a single regiment would stand this wide. Hold on. One single regiment would stand this wide on the battlefield and take up, well, how much is this? Like 15% of the battlefield would be from one regiment with the width. But now, like, you can fit 2. And it looks like there's like multiple rows of men and reserves backed up. You could also abstract this as like the drummer, officers, NCOs, and other things, but I think that's a bit of a stretch. It just looks a bit cleaner, like as a formation, I think, to do it this way than just have all the ranks bunched up. And the added benefit of it is when you do make them stand really close to each other, they form by platoon when they march, which this is accurate. This is like the most accurate look you could get for marching, is divided by platoon like that. This one's not as accurate. Yeah, it's just cool to see this many troops. I think there's about 600 models actually loaded up here in one regiment. So technically, the amount of models that you're seeing here being 600 would be the size of a real-life battalion. So if you could imagine in real life what this would look like, this would be 1 battalion of men, 1-to-1 scale. But since there's 1,200 guys here, this is a 1-to-2 scale, representing 2 battalions, pretty much. Anyways, I'm repeating myself. I feel like I'm just getting way too into the weeds of the army organization. The Prague battle. Oh, okay. You know it too, Siberian Productions. Let's see. Is there another map that he does? Yeah, that's not bad. This one I think is good. He really detailed this one, didn't he? Yeah, it's kind of like not having to have a player have another regiment sitting in the back. It's kind of representing that regiment that's that extra battalion in the rear. Or like the way the Austrians have it. It's like having the 2 lines of men, kind of. Anyway, it's not super accurate, but I just think, again, it looks better than having 6 rows of men, which you could say the alternative is just to not have that many soldiers, but I do think it makes the battles look cooler. If you don't like it, though, you can play on the, like I said, the medium scale mode. If you play on medium scale, you can draw out 1 battalion. If you play on ultra, that's when you get the double battalion scale. So it's kind of something that you can opt into. So I think people who really care about the historical accuracy will probably stay on medium, and the people like me who just want to see a big battle will play on ultra mode just for fun. Yeah, this is a very good map that he drew. A very detailed one. Look how many little villages there are just everywhere. There's just so many villages and so much water, too. I feel like that's something we got to do with ours. me just set an alarm 1 second. What did I just want to go look up? Oh, I need to set an alarm. I have a call at 2 o'clock. So I need to do a 1:45, or I'll do a 1:50 p.m. alarm. There we go. Okay. And we'll load up main map 1. But I think we're on the right track, right? Like from what the map looked like in battle, were you guys happy with that? I think the lighting looked pretty decent. And I think the layout is pretty decent. It's not perfect. I definitely have to add a lot more, obviously, but I think I'm on the right track of what I'm trying to go for, what I'm trying to accomplish. It's cool seeing the winter version that you can just toggle through like that. You're wargaming Prague and 2mm. That's interesting. 2mm is bold. I guess it's not that, but you kind of reach a certain smallness where it suddenly becomes incredibly easy to paint the models because you're putting in like no detail at that size, that they're just like dots. But you just have to get so many of them. There's just so many little tiny models. What do we want to do next? Should we add a couple little creeks? What do you guys think? I can't do big rivers, but I can do little creeks. I just don't know where I'd put them. Maybe this map doesn't need any. Maybe I could just stick to lakes for this map. But in the future, I should probably do... I could do one creek. Let me see what I can pull off here. I'm not gonna have enough room, but we'll figure it out. There we go. Okay, and then what I want to do is I probably want to take this hill. Uh-oh. Okay, good. And just move it over a bit. Okay. Look how fast the river is running right now. I can fix that. It's almost like too many. Here, if I shove this down, there's like too many points. I forget how to delete them. I think that's good. Look how fast. Then we can slow it down. Okay, lazy river. Make it larger. Good. Add a riverbank. There we go. Then after the bank is added, you reduce the scale to show it like that. And there you go. There's your little river on the side of the map. I could make it even smaller potentially as well. But troops will be able to walk through it. They're just going to go much slower when they do. Here's a size reference. You could like trudge through that, honestly. I could even go for something like this. Deselect the spline and then reduce the bank size just a little bit. I think that looks nice. I don't know why it pops like that. I think you kind of do want to see the underneath of the bank like that. There. That's more creek-sized, I feel. You could definitely jump through that. I don't know if I have bridges that'll be appropriate. Let's see. The really tough thing is the bridges are only at 2 angles. So you kind of have to reshape the roads a little bit around them. There's one bridge there. And one bridge there. That's not the end of the world. Kind of like that is good. And that one's good. So then what you want to do is you grab these bridges, lift them up on the green y-axis so they stick above the river. Like that. I think that one's good. In fact, I'd probably make them a little larger. Like that. You just can't change the angle because the angle is going to break the perspective, but you can scale them up. There we go. And then what you want to do is you want to get grass, cut off the roads, and kind of redraw them earlier on to show them bending toward those bridges. Yeah, just adding a little bit of water to the map I think helps, but this was never going to be a bridge-centric map. It was honestly going to be more based around the forests. That was like kind of the theme for this map. We're having like big forests. Good. Good. And then we'll go in and we'll kind of narrow out the path as it approaches the bridge. Kind of like that. There we go. There's a winter version as well. Yeah, I just got really tired because I've been kind of banging my head against this problem for a while, so I'm not being very interesting right now. Normally, I have like a whole process, so like I'll show you. Normally, I go through this process individually until I make the map. I just spent so long deliberating on like farm layouts that it took a lot out of me. Normally, I start with the rivers. I did that. Layout roads, I did that. Natural roads, did that. Lakes, we can do some lakes. There. Hills, I did that. Painted the hills, did that. Shallow crossings. I don't think I'm going to do any shallow crossings. I do need to fix this. Place individual trees, did that. Trees and bushes along roads, did that. Texture brush, rolling farmland, did that. Enclose the brushed farmland. So that's the next step, is enclosing all of the farmland. So I'll do another save, which this one should be saving to the correct location. Good. Oh, my camera broke. There we go. So that's saved, and we have to finish doing the enclosures, so now we're just going to keep doing that. Speaking of AI, I was talking about it earlier. The developer just got it working. This is how it works currently. So the AI views its own group, and it goes, all right, we've got artillery back here. We're going to try to form a front line like this. We're going to put our cavalry on the sides. And then how do we look at the player's front line? Well, is this on the front or is this in the back? What is the front and what is the back? How do we determine that? Well, the first thing it does is it like groups up the player's army and goes, okay, that's a player group. That's like a threat. But how do we know what the front of this is? Like, how would the AI know that that's not the front or that this isn't the front? And you could say, well, it could judge the direction your troops are facing. Okay, but if I moved all my troops to face this way, then the AI, if it always based itself off of what direction you're facing, then the AI would march around and walk all the way around to go face you, right? So if the question is how do you get them to pick a frontage to attack, basically, like how does it know which side it wants to go for? Should it march around? Should it go for the front of this? What should it do? That's difficult. But right now it does a calculation that was set up today. That looks something like this, where the AI will kind of like use these like vision beams to like look at your group, which I believe is the blue here, and it goes, okay, everything that I can like see from my perspective, once this line like hits a player's unit, it stops, and we kind of read that as like the front, so we can recognize what the front part is versus the back part. I don't know how it works beyond that, but apparently that's what it does. And then Thomas was just showing me as well. Now he's just got it working today, so now it draws out that yellow group, but then underneath it, look, it's got this red line. It can tell what the player's front line is, and it's cool because it's not looking at this artillery in the back and getting confused. It's basically laser beaming its vision out and going like, oh, this is the front. So if you had reserves in the back or artillery, it doesn't get confused and start going, oh, do we need to wrap around or move around? It can actually read like what your front line is. So he's working on that. That's what Thomas is working on. He's sitting in the sweatshop working on that now, and then I'm working on the map. So those are the two things we're trying to get done right now. It's like a ray tracing system. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right, so I gotta keep doing these little enclosures. Where would you, I wonder where you would get things like barns. Like, where would a barn end up being? Because you wouldn't have isolated homes just out in the middle of nowhere, most likely. I guess if I had to think about it, when I was in Europe, you would see the barns directly in the village. Like, you would just see a path off the village to the barn, and then there'd just be farms in the outskirts. So I would imagine, oh, that's not right. That's kind of funny. It's a frozen lake in the summer. That particular lake and that one as well. Those two are having issues. For now, I'll get rid of that lake. Let me find out which one it is and I'll report it. Lake 3. I'll just get rid of it for now. That's fine. Modern Europe is a lot changed. Yeah, when I went to rural Bavaria in the mountains and found like really old school looking villages. So I don't know if they would change the whole layout of where the barn's located in a mountain village as a result of the Industrial Revolution. I'm sure that it got adjusted a little bit. But I'm just trying to think, like, I mean, what other answer do we even have? Is that answer wrong? Do they put a barn? Because the conclusion I was coming to was just that you would put a barn on the outskirts of a village. But is the pre-industrial thing to do to put a barn in the middle of a field? Because then someone told me, hey, the European villages, it wasn't like how the Americans would do it, where you had farms that were self-sufficient, completely in isolation from any kind of village. That's how we do it here, where you just find a farm in the middle of nowhere. But if the farms are very dependent on the local villages, then you would expect the barns to probably be on the outskirts of those villages, I would imagine. I could be wrong. I don't know. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, this part sucks. At least you can kind of turn off your brain while you do this part. You don't have to keep second guessing the design. Only thing I'm worried about here is it's a lot of assets. It's a lot of hedges. So I hope it doesn't cause any lag. I'm not, I mean, I'm running pretty smoothly right now. I'm on a really good computer though, but yeah, I just hope it doesn't cause problems for others. A lot of this, man, is like a lot of this is just hoping, you're working on it and just hoping everything comes together in the end, because like what would happen if I built all these maps and then we determined the hedges hurt performance too much and players can't play on the maps? What do you do? Like, you could go through and manually delete all of them, and I guess that would work. So that wouldn't cause any big problems, but it's a lot of like you're in the air spinning, doing lots of spins, and you're hoping you're just doing lots and lots of spins, and you're hoping that you stick the landing right at the end, or you could fall and it can be a complete disaster as you come down for the landing, and everybody's staring and you're humiliated. That's kind of what this is like. It's like I'm not necessarily talking about making the map, but just making the game generally. You're hoping it all comes. You stick the landing at the end. You hope it all comes together, and you're just putting all the elements together, just spinning as much as you possibly can, doing your spins, doing your jump, and then hopefully you stick the landing right at the end. I don't know. Has the map building process felt easier in Fire Maneuver or just different? That's a really good question. Honestly, I do think it was easier. I could make a lot of maps in Fire Maneuver. I made over 100. And I don't know. That would be really, really hard to do with this. Because there's just so much more detail with everything. Like, I never did this. Like, all these, like, layouts of farms and everything. I never bothered with that. Like, a farm in Fire Maneuver was 3 plots that were just objects. It was kind of like, I'm not even going to do an example, but it was basically 3 objects of green, yellow, orange, and that was a farm. And I just put a house next to it. In the same way they look in America, I would just make a bunch of little farmsteads and I just move on. And no one ever really even complained about it because people were there for the battles, not for the historical accuracy of the environment. But I think this game is more intimate because you can zoom into your troops and look at their flags and look at their uniforms, and you'll be able to hear their fife and drum music, and you'll slowly see them walk up to the battlefield. And in Fire Maneuver, you're way zoomed out with a big order sheet issuing like overhead orders, and I think that position that game puts you in feels a lot different. So this demands a higher level of detail, I think, in some ways. The only thing I think is a shame is I think the Fire Maneuver 3D perspective did really help. 3D honestly really helps for map creation, because just placing all this down manually, there's no way for the game, like only you as a human knows what the correct perspective should be. And between coordinating with artists to get all the perspective right and placing down these individual objects, I'm just like kind of feeling it out as I put these down. But you really couldn't create a tool that would know how to do this, because it'd have to know the angle and the position and what you want. You could create tools to make this a little easier, but there's nothing that could do this. If this is 3D, you could create a full tool that would do all of this for you, where you just like click and drag, and you would just place this stuff down. Can we enter this map maker as players? So yes and no. Technically right now you can, but I don't think we're going to allow for that when the game comes out. And that's just because we would have to set up an exporting system. So it's one thing to build the map. Like everything I'm doing, you guys technically can do right now if you had the game. But the exporting of the maps and how the game processes it and labels it and then puts it in the game as a playable map and how to play on it and what to assign it to, that's where it's more difficult. And where like, and then how would a player trade maps with another player? You'd have to get a Steam Workshop system, and then you'd have to be able to download maps and manage them and delete them and rename them and reorganize them. And then that's where like we just don't have time to do that right now. So it is 100% possible to get a this map maker in your guys' hands eventually. But just right now, it'd be too complicated to try and pull off a Steam Workshop system for the launch of the game. I think that'd be just a little too ambitious. So we're not going to offer the map editor. I know a lot of people really want it. Because as you can see here, it's not too hard. Once you get it down, it just takes a little practice. I could probably make tutorials for people of everything I learned between the technical side of things, but also the design. And I'm sure some people wouldn't even make the maps for other people to play on. They would just, it's just kind of relaxing to build the maps on. Especially when you make a village. I think the villages are really fun to put together. They're a little tricky because of the perspective issues, because it's 2D. And I only have 2 angles of buildings. So you really got to get those, like, 2 angles to, you've got to get a lot of mileage out of them. But yeah. You're currently making a map on the Discord server about Chostazits. The only problem is there's a big lake there. You could put the lake, and I honestly, I know Chostazits. That's, unless I'm mistaken. He has, you know which ones I get mixed up is Labazits and Chostazits. I don't really know the difference between them. Which of those was in the, one of those I think is in the 7 Years' War, and one of those I think is in the War of the Austrian Succession. And I don't remember which it is. But what I was thinking is that you could probably just zoom in. I would just crop the map so that the lake is just on the very edge, or just like barely not included. Because I don't think they fought around the lake, right? It's not like they went in the lake for the battle. So you could just crop it out and just do a section. Because the maps shouldn't be 1-to-1 scale anyways. I can't really make a 1-to-1 scale battlefield. So we have to kind of abstract it or scale it down a bit. And so I would recommend, honestly, just scaling it down a little. And just cropping out that lake if I'm thinking of the right battle. Yeah, Chostazits, we were actually, honestly, Garrett, we were thinking of having Chostazits in the game as a real historical battle you can play. I'm considering, you guys tell me if this is worth it, I'm considering spending like $4,000 or $5,000, which is a lot, and I really hate that number, but it might be worth it. But I'm thinking of spending $4,000 or $5,000 to get 5 really good cutscenes made that have multiple scenes within them. So like each of those cutscenes has like 5 scenes within them of like dialogue, people talking, marching, planning, and that sort of thing. And they walk you through the rise of Frederick the Great as like the tutorial for the game. So it would be, you would go from the aftermath of what's his first battle called again? I don't know, I don't remember that. Where he ran away. Let's look it up. Molvitz, that's it. So it'd be the aftermath of... I wouldn't have Molvitz in the game because he ran away in the middle of the battle, so I can't really program that in. Like the historical battles that we can set up with the amount of time that we have to develop them, we wouldn't be able to do scripting, so you can't like have cutscenes mid-battle or have the AI change their behaviors. You kind of just have it so a cutscene starts, sets up the battle, and then you deploy, and then from that point on, it's like any regular battle. But I was thinking of doing, I'll just show you my plan for it. Game design. New. So, Shadow of Molvitz. So, he says Molvitz was a lesson. I won't make the same mistake again. He's thinking about it. This is how the tutorial would basically open up. My men stood and fought, and I fled, and then the newspaper reported that Marshal Schwerin won the battle. And honestly, a king should die with his men. I shouldn't do that again. I should stay and fight. So Molvitz was the school. Plus, our cavalry kind of let us down. The infantry ended up standing without me, and we've reformed the cavalry and we've hardened the soldiers. So this is winter of 1742. So I think Molvitz was 1741. So this is like a year after, and he's in winter quarters, like training his men, reforming them. And then a staff officer approaches and he's like, hey, we have 2 Grenzer, maybe 3 Grenzer battalions. They were moving around the Nysa because he's in Silesia. And he goes, okay, well, they're not going to expect an engagement. They don't know we're there. Let's go attack. So this is like putting your army to the test. And what's it called? It's not a real battle. This is just like a generic battle, right? So that's battle 1. The next 3 battles, though, are all in the Austrian succession. There's no 7 Years' War battles because the campaign, the procedural campaign of the game, which I'll show you real quick. So I'll save this. I did all my hedges. Actually, I have one more hedge thing to do left. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so you fight that battle, and it's fictional, and it's like 3 battalions you're fighting, and you have like 4. So it's like the tutorial of the game. You only have 4 units. And so that's all Austrian succession stuff. The main campaign here, when you hit new campaign, this UI sucks, by the way. Ignore the stuff on the right. The main campaign, when you select a country, you go in, you can pick an army to lead, like this. This is all procedural. If I click the Cantonists I want to lead, and I continue, I get a randomly generated campaign of my 7 Years' War equivalent that I get to fight through. So I load in, and it's going to select missions for me. And so my missions end up being what? Let's see. It just takes a little bit to load on startup for the first time. Especially on stream in 4K, it's just takes a little bit. There we go. Okay. So it rolls out the map, and then you get these 3 orders. And so I can now I have all enemies turned on. So this scenario generator or campaign generator thinks that I'm at war with all of Europe right now. So you could turn off, you know, if you're Prussia, you can turn it off so you're not at war with the British. But this is like, all right, you could occupy Hanover against the British. You could occupy Thuringia against the Austrians, or we can go support Silesia because it seems like the Austrians are moving into that region. So these aren't like real things that are necessarily happening, but it's just like giving you some role play of like orders that you would be pursuing as a commander. So we can support Silesia against the Austrians, for example, and then we have rewards. If we go there, there's some Fusiliers who can join the army, and we get this stratagem called scraping the barrel, or salary reductions, or plunderer. Those are kind of the 3 randomly generated bonuses we get by going there. So in this case, we go to Silesia. We kind of zoom in through that region, and then it creates a procedurally generated map of that campaign, which is this here. This is all procedurally generated. And then we can go through with our army, and now we're starting on the campaign. And so we have side objectives in this area. So notice it said support Silesia. Support means I have to go to these depots, which are here, these green flag depots, and I need to go secure them. So these are like little friendly bases, and because we're doing a support mission, we have to go and visit them. So we may want to try to swing up north, and so we can go back here. And I might just use cheats and just teleport, just so you don't have to wait. There we go. So we found one of the depots, and I'll walk up to it. And it's an allied depot. We can purchase weapons from here, which is cool. So I might purchase like a small batch of weapons. I got I don't know why my tooltips don't work at all right now. That's weird. Are any of the tooltips working? There we go. I got land pattern musket, a carbine, and a brummer, actually, which is really good. But I have no money now. And then you can see on the right, I've already resolved one of the friendly depot encounters. Completing that side objective gets you the reinforcements. So if you go to the depots, this next one would be my next option. I can unlock a new troop. And then Austrians spotted us. So that it looks like those are Hungarians, a little picket of 2,000 Hungarians that are kind of pursuing our force. And we could run away or we could fight them. There's also another little encounter here. Oh, they actually walked up, saw the size of the army, and decided to retreat. So the AI on the campaign will sometimes decide, oh, he has 4,200 men. There's only 2,000 of us. Let's retreat, regroup, and another army will approach later on. I also found this little encounter here of a battlefield. So we can walk up to this. Oh, there's an active cavalry clash. So we can charge our army in. Or we can watch and just see what happens. So I don't want to risk my troops, so I'm going to watch. And there's a 25% chance that our side wins that we're watching. And if they win, they'll join our side and actually fold in, which they actually did. So the 25% chance passed, and we rescued some provincial cavalry from that cavalry clash that we witnessed. Now we can walk up to the town of Glatz, which has popular support and debased currency. So there's extra reservists, but the items are expensive there. So go to Glatz. This whole town view is going to be redrawn. I'll show you the new version of it. The new town, which is yet to be implemented, looks like this, which I think looks a lot better than this, which doesn't look quite right. But when you're out of town, you can go and there's like a staff house. You can buy military treatises, staff officers. You can go to an arsenal, find new weapons, powder house. You can get like canister shot, grenades, things like that. Barracks. This UI is not done yet, but you can find a barracks to recruit some more cantonists. An estate to find officers who have like randomly generated personalities here and names. This is our camp view here, which I showed off. But anyways, this is like the whole campaign. And then eventually, there's Leuten, by the way. That's kind of cool. You know, you'll go through this. You'll fight armies. You'll build up your army. And then at the end of this campaign, there's a enemy headquarters. There's a base over there. See how they're in gold? They're going to build up all the way. This health bar is going to go all the way up. And then once they're fully active or at their peak strength, they'll come after you. And so that's the enemy. That's the main Austrian army. Other armies I encounter are like the smaller like skirmish armies or detachments that I'm fighting. And you want to fight those because you want to loot them, steal their prisoners, gain experience, basically. And as you gain experience, you take these troops, like these recruits, and you can bring them down the skill tree and turn them into like musketeers or veterans or grenadiers or whatever kind of branch that you want to kind of take them down. Anyways, I want to explain that whole loop because that's the main campaign. And what I'm proposing here with this cutscene is like a tutorial campaign, which would take place of like the rise of Frederick right before the 7 Years' War. So during the First and Second Silesian Wars and the War of the Austrian Succession. So this is the Shadow of Molwitz. He fights like a couple Grenzers. You load into a battle. You win the battle, and then you're immediately taken to the next cutscene, which is the March to Redemption, Eve of Chostesitz. So this is where that battlefield comes into play. It says the war moved swiftly. The Austrians struck at Chostesitz while I was a day's march away. Now we've got to push through the night and save the army. So a rider approaches. Leopold comes in and goes, Frederick, okay, you're arriving. My left flank is collapsing. My cavalry can't hold you. You've got to... if you delay, we're going to lose. So he looks past him, looks at the black smoke. He's pretty much just arrived there, and he goes, all right, Molwitz was my father's army. Chostesitz will be mine. So this is his new reformed army after his embarrassment at Molwitz. He goes, all right, double the pace. We're going to strike. So he moves his army up, and then you fade to black, and now you load in to the historical Battle of Chostesitz, and you fight it. Again, there's no complicated scripting. I'm just going to make a map that looks like Chostesitz with an army composition that's reflective of the battle too, and then you'll just fight a standard battle. There's not going to be any like scripting or anything. I don't think there really needs to be any scripting though, because look how simple. It's just like they stand in a line, they have cavalry on the flanks, and that's already what our AI does. They have their main battle line, and they've got cavalry on the flanks. In terms of designing this battlefield, I would probably do it like kind of like this. And I'd leave the lake out. Or you could even do it more narrow, right? You could do it kind of like You can kind of abstract it a bit and do it like this, and then do that. And then we could put a little lake in the corner. There. That's almost how I would do it. Oh, maybe a little bit more. In fact, if you want the deployment in the back, you could probably do this. There. So this is where the Prussian troops would deploy, and then you'd have a hill right in front of you, and then all the Austrians would be in this big open field. That would be the Chostesitz battle, or Chostesitz, however you pronounce it. And then, so you fight that. Now you load back in, and this is a historical quote. He goes, I think he's talking to his officers. He says, "My friend, God has helped me wonderfully at..." Oh, not Hohenfriedberg. Actually, hold on. I think I messed up this line here. But yeah, this is actually supposed to be right before. Yeah, this line is messed up. Just ignore that. This is supposed to be now at the Battle of Hohenfriedberg. There we go. So he accidentally said that before he's supposed to. I'll actually mark that. I'll flag it and say he shouldn't say this yet because he hasn't fought the battle yet. Anyways, in the aftermath of Chostesitz, you then go to the peace table. So he's supposed to basically comment, "Hey, we won Chostesitz. That was great." Schwerin goes, "Oh, fine victory. That was your first big win after Molwitz." Then Frederick says, "All right, well, the Empress is not going to forget this." And so he pieces out and leaves. That concludes the First Silesian War. Then 2 years later, he says, "I was in Bohemia just 2 weeks ago. It was too soon. My supplies thinned. I had to withdraw." So we kind of go back to Frederick, and now he's in his second Silesian War. And he was just campaigning in Bohemia, which ended up actually failing historically. But he kind of pulls out, and then the Austrians pursue him. And he goes, "Well, Austria thinks this is being weak, but they're going to come to Silesia and try to reclaim it now." And the messenger says, "All right, Austrian Saxon forces, they're on the move now." So he goes, "Okay, let them come." And now starts the Battle of Hohenfriedberg. So that'd be the second historical battle you fight, which I think is really cool because this is like the big famous battle with the painting. And it's a very simple battlefield. It's just like two main lines fighting at a oblique or a inverted wedge, you could say. And it's just like a very standard kind of line battle. Honestly, this field would be really, really simple to make by the looks of it. I could probably start it back here, so your army starts a little bit further back and can advance. And then after that battle, that's like the last major battle. And he goes, "Okay, after Hohenfriedberg, I thought Austria would seek peace, but they're not. So now he's withdrawing for the winter." And his aide says, "Hey, we don't report any Austrian movements. We can get back to Berlin for winter quarters." And he says, "All right, I guess we will head back because we won our great Hohenfriedberg battle. We're waiting for the Austrians to come to the peace table, but they're really not." So they start marching back. The Prussian camp is set. It's nighttime. And a courier wakes him up, I think, in the middle of the night. Yeah, he's woken up. I think it's at like 4 or 5 a.m. I think it's like 4 a.m. "Your Majesty, Austrian forces are on the surrounding heights. They're going to encircle us." So he goes, "Okay, rouse the men, prepare for the engagement. We have to break through." And this is now the Battle of Soor. And that's the final battle that the player will play. So it's 4 battles, right? We have that fictional opening one. We have Chostesitz, Hohenfriedberg, and then ending with Soor. And Soor is like is kind of like the finale for the First and Second Silesian Wars, the Prussians' involvement in the Austrian succession. And essentially what it is I don't really like that map. Let's use this one's an easier map to see what's actually going on for the sake of this explanation. But you can see Prussia's at their camp, and they're trying to get back to Berlin, and all the Austrians kind of like ambush them, and they're holding the hills. So this map would be like, I would just place down a bunch of hills and put the AI spawn all in the hills, so they'd have the advantage, the high ground, and then you now have to attack. You have to attack a high ground advantage, which could be kind of cool. And that would be the final battle, and I think that's how I want to do it. And then that pretty much completes the tutorial. And then the rest of the game would be no cutscenes. It would just be the procedural campaign generator that I just showed off on here. So yeah, for anybody who's listening that long, what did you think of that plan? We could do the cutscenes like that, or we could go another route. If you'd rather something different, I could skip the first and second Silesian Wars and make the 3 battles, because my 3 battles are Chastizitz, Hohenfriedberg, and Sohr. But I could change the 3 battles to be within the 7 Years' War if you prefer that instead. And they could be like, I couldn't do Rossbach because the AI programming would have to be insane to get the AI to all fight in some really stupid column formation like that. Like that formation is so bad that I don't even know how the AI would blunder that badly. So it'd have to be if I did the 7 Years' War battles, it would have to be like Leuthen, and maybe they'd be disconnected without cutscene, or maybe they'd have cutscenes. I don't know. I guess the other issue, or sorry, the other option. Would you guys prefer like here's 2 options we could do. It could be like story or like Rise of Frederick. And that one option would be Chastizitz. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's written something like that. I forget how to spell it. Hohenfriedberg and Sohr. And so this is like his redemption. This is like just like big epic Prussian battle. And this is like a difficult against the odds type of battle. We also have that early one that I mentioned, like the fictional skirmish at the start. So that would be option 1. And then we'd have cutscenes, which I'll mark in yellow or in green. So you have a cutscene, then you do the skirmish, you go, oh, that was a great victory. Then you go to Chastizitz, and then it goes, okay, cool, we pieced out the Austrians. And then it fades to black and goes, okay, but we're back. And then you fight Hohenfriedberg, and you go, oh, that was an incredible victory. And then you're trapped at Sohr. And then you say, well, we beat the Austrians across the first and second Silesian Wars, and now the Austrians are really pissed off at us. And that leaves off right when the 7 Years' War is about to begin. So this is, the premise of this is like first and second Silesian Wars right before the 7 Years' War. The third and final Silesian War is the 7 Years' War, basically. So this is all of the little fights in Silesia that Frederick was obsessed with before the big 7 Years' War started. So it's kind of like a prelude to his career. And then you basically get to fight through the 7 Years' War through the campaign generator, which the campaign generator is not historical. You don't really have historical battles. It just sets up situations and major campaigns for you to fight across. The other option would just be like either... Okay, we have 2 other options. It would be... it'd be Frederick's career in the 7 Years' War, or we'd have historical battles. And historical battles would be disconnected. We have the budget to basically do 5 cutscenes. So these 5 cutscenes could do a fictional skirmish, Chastizitz, Hohenfriedberg, Sohr, and then end the story. Or the 5 cutscenes could be a cutscene for each to set up 5 completely disconnected historical battles. We could even have the cutscenes tell kind of a story if these are covered chronologically, but you'd be jumping between armies. You could have like Battle of Minden, Battle of Hastenbeck, Battle of Leuthen, Battle of, I don't know, Hochkirch maybe. What's the one in Russia that he fights that's a crazy one? Zorndorf. Battle of Zorndorf. Something like that. So you could do a little cutscene explaining each battle, and then you play probably only as one side. You could only play as the winning side. And then the other idea we could do, the one other idea, would be doing the same kind of cutscene system, like this, squished like that, but then just pick battles in the 7 Years' War and skip the whole first and second Silesian Wars. So it could also be like this, where we would do, I'd probably do fictional skirmish still. I like the idea of just starting with something really small to not overwhelm the player. And then what's like Frederick's major battles in order? Let's look at like Colleen, Kunersdorf, Leuthen, and maybe like Zorndorf. He kind of loses that one though, but Austrian, Russian. Okay, well, Colleen and Kunersdorf don't work because Prussia has to win each time. What are his greatest? I know he wins Leuthen, so that's one. What are 4 of his greatest victories? Or actually, how many? 3. We can do 3 great victories of his in the 7 Years' War. How's Torgau? Torgau's not bad. Torgau, Leuthen, and obviously I would do more research on this if we chose this, but for now I'm just trying to get 3 battles selected. Berkersdorf. Damn, the Prussians lose a lot, don't they? Lobositz. Didn't really win that one either. Lobositz isn't huge. Yeah, that could work. Yeah, I would say Gerkit, like to what you're saying, ignore the battle names, but like you could do play as Britain, play as France, play as Prussia, play as Austria, play as Russia. Again, we could probably pick better battles. Let's not be too... this is like big picture. I'm just trying to think like an outline, and then we can pick better battles if I were to actually do the research. I'm just like coming up with like a general concept. But like this would be the other option if you wanted basically instead of a story that you follow through Frederick, maybe you just see a map of Europe and then you just have 5 little battles and they're all disconnected, but you play as a different country with each one. And it just sets up like 5 little historical battles that have a little cutscene at the start of each one. That's another option too. The final option would be to do the whole Rise of Frederick thing, but instead of doing the first and second Silesian Wars, you skip those and you do, I don't know what we had here, like Battle of Lobositz, which is like small as like a setup battle, and then Battle of Leuthen as like a big battle, and then end it in 1760 with like Battle of Torgau or something like that, and you could like follow that story as well. So yeah, the benefit of the one on the left here is this like sets the stage for the procedural campaign, and that procedural campaign is more based around the 7 Years' War roughly. And this one introduces the start of his career. The benefit of this one is that you get players still learning about Frederick the Great, but you jump straight into known 7 Years' War battles, whereas these are a little less known, maybe with the exception of Hohenfriedberg. And then the third option is that we could do 5 disconnected battles, but you get to play as a sampler. You get to do like 5 really famous battles, like all of these I know of, and you get to play as them from all different perspectives. The benefit here is you actually get 5 battles across 5 cutscenes because you get 1 cutscene to introduce each battle, whereas you get 5 cutscenes here, but it's 1 to set the scene, then to a battle, set the scene to battle, set the scene to battle, set the scene to battle, and then conclude. What you could do here is you could almost have, if you had a narrator, you could have a independent narrator, kind of like a person like me, almost like telling it like a documentary, and then talk about the 7 Years' War through the battles. So you say, like, the 7 Years' War began in 1756, and as the armies moved and assembled, France met the British on the fields of Minden. And then you fight it. And then you go to the next one that's chronological. And it goes, after the Battle of Minden, there was great blah, 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 and the Prussians built up their armies and sent them against Austria. And then you go to Leuthen, and then you continue, blah, 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 blah. So it'd be kind of like a documentary, I guess, between cutscenes, and then you'd be playing through each of these. That's an option. But yeah, we'll decide on this, and then, or at least I'll get your opinions, and then I have to go. Let me just note this down in my workspace. Which do you guys prefer here? Yeah, let me know what you guys prefer. Think on it as well, and then if you're in the Discord, I'll send a link in the Discord. You guys can kind of discuss it there too, but I do have to go. So I'll put it there too. You can discuss it. You can also discuss it in maybe the description, or sorry, in the comment section. Yeah, I think you guys are kind of preferring either of these, like tell the story of the rise of Frederick or do the historical. Okay, I'll think on that a little bit. All right, I got to go. Thank you guys for joining me. I will finish this map, and I'll post the map in the Discord when it's done.